All right, let's get right into it. For literally thousands of years, we've had this one big idea about emotions, that they're these primitive, automatic reactions hardwired into us from the day we're born. But what if that whole story is just plain wrong? Today, we're diving into some pretty revolutionary science that's completely rewriting our understanding of what it even means to feel.
So picture this. It's a few weeks after the Sandy Hook tragedy, and Connecticut's governor is giving a speech. He's speaking really powerfully, and then he gets to this line right here. As he said the words, protecting students, his voice just cracked. Only for a second. And in that one instant, it felt like a wave of purest sadness just washed over the entire room. It was automatic, it was uncontrollable, and it felt like everyone felt it at the exact same time.
And you know that feeling, right? We've all been there. Something happens out in the world, and it feels like it just flips a switch inside of us. That idea is so intuitive, it just feels true. But what if I told you that what science is discovering now is that this fundamental belief we have about our own minds might just be an illusion?
So this old idea, it actually has a name. It's called the classical view of emotion. And it's been the top dog theory for centuries, from ancient philosophers like Plato all the way to modern psychology. And it basically says that deep inside your brain, there are these ancient pre-programmed emotion circuits, just sitting there waiting for the right trigger.
You know, the classical view really packages this idea of so neatly. It says emotions are built in from birth, they fire off automatically, they're universal across every human culture, and this is the most important part, each emotion is supposed to have its own unique biological fingerprint, a specific, consistent pattern in your face, your heart rate, and your brain that is the exact same every single time you feel it and for every single person.
So here's the deal. If that's true, we should be able to find those fingerprints, right? They should be measurable. And for more than 100 years, that's exactly what scientists have been trying to do. They've been on this massive hunt for the objective physical proof of these emotion circuits. And the most obvious place to start that search? Well, it was the human face. The thinking was pretty simple. If happiness has a fingerprint, it's got to be a smile. If anger has a fingerprint, it's got to be a scowl. Case closed.
And early on, it really looked like they were onto something. Researchers used this technique called the basic emotion method. What they did was they'd have actors pose with very specific expressions. Then they'd take those photos all around the world, even to really remote cultures, and ask people to match the face to a list of emotion words. And surprisingly, people were pretty consistent. This was celebrated as proof positive of universal biological expressions.
But then, technology changed the whole game. Instead of just relying on people's opinions about posed photos, scientists started using something called facial electromyography, or EMG. This is a method that objectively measures the teeny-tiny electrical signals from your facial muscles as they move, in real time while people are actually feeling things.
So what did this new objective measurement find? Well, it found the exact opposite of what the classical view predicted. It found tremendous variety. Massive. When people reported feeling angry, their faces did all sorts of different things. Yeah, sometimes they scowled, but sometimes they smiled or cried or showed absolutely nothing. That neat, tidy little fingerprint, it just wasn't there.
Okay, take a look at this photo of the actor Martin Landau. Just look at his face. What emotion would you say he's showing? Is it fear? Is it surprise? It's kind of hard to tell, isn't it? Pretty ambiguous.
And this chart just illustrates the point perfectly. When people saw just his face with no context, most of them said he looked surprised. But when they gave a different group the exact same face, but with a little piece of context, they were told he had just witnessed a shooting, suddenly the majority saw fear. The emotion wasn't in the face, it was constructed by our brains using the situation around it.
So what are all those classic angry faces and sad faces we all think we know? Well, it turns out they're stereotypes. They're cultural symbols, kind of like emojis, that we've all learned to associate with certain feelings. They're super useful for communicating, for sure, but they are not biological readouts of what's happening inside us.
Okay, so the search in the face was pretty much a dead end. But what about the rest of the body and the brain? Surely the fingerprint for fear would show up as a racing heart, right? Or in some dedicated fear center in the brain?
Well, the search in the body was even more of a bust. We're talking about 4 huge meta-analyses, which altogether looked at over 22,000 test subjects. They searched for consistent patterns in heart rate, breathing, blood pressure, you name it, and they found nothing. 0 consistent patterns. Variation was the rule, not the exception. You can feel terror with a heart that's pounding out of your chest, or with a heart that's strangely calm. There is no single fingerprint in the body.
So that leaves one last place to look, the brain itself. This is the final frontier. And for decades, the classical view had a famous poster child for this, the amygdala. For years, we were told this was the brain's fear center. The idea was simple. The amygdala lights up, you feel fear. End of story.
But modern neuroscience has uncovered this crucial principle that just blows that whole idea apart. It's called degeneracy. It's a bit of a weird word, but it just means that many different combinations of neurons can produce the very same outcome. Think of it this way. There are lots of different recipes to make a cake. Your brain is the same. It has many different recipes, many different pathways to make an experience of fear. There is no single fear circuit.
To put the final nail in the coffin, scientists did this massive meta-analysis of nearly 100 different brain imaging studies. They basically took the entire brain and digitally chopped it up into thousands of tiny 3D pixels called voxels. This way, they could see if any one region, or even any network of regions, consistently lit up for one specific emotion across all those studies. And the result was absolutely stunning. The number of brain regions that were found to be the exclusive home for any single emotion was 0, not a single one. Turns out, the amygdala, the famous fear center, it also shows increased activity when you're angry, sad, happy, even when you're just learning something new and surprising. The whole idea of dedicated emotion circuits was officially dead.
Okay, so if emotions aren't pre-programmed circuits that just get triggered, then what in the world are they? Well, all of this evidence is now pointing to a radical and really exciting new idea, the theory of constructed emotion.
It's a completely different story. It says your brain isn't just sitting there waiting to react to the world. No, your brain is actively predicting. So here's how it works. First, your brain is constantly tracking all the raw sensations coming from your body. Your heartbeat, your breathing, that little flutter in your stomach. Second, your brain uses your entire lifetime of past experiences to make a guess, a prediction about what those sensations mean. And finally, it constructs an emotion by connecting that meaning to whatever is happening around you in that very moment.
This analogy is just so perfect for understanding this. Now, this doesn't mean your emotions aren't real. Oh, they are absolutely real. But they're real in the same way that money is real. I mean, think about it. A piece of paper isn't valuable on its own. It only becomes money because all of us, as a society, agree that it has value. In the same way, a racing heart isn't objectively fear. It becomes fear because your brain, using concepts it learned from your culture, constructs it that way in that specific situation.
Okay, so this is a really fascinating scientific revolution, right? But why does it actually matter in our day-to-day lives? Well, it matters a lot, because believing in that old, wrong theory has led to some serious, high-stakes consequences.
For example, the TSA spent $900 million on a program to spot terrorists by reading their faces. It failed completely. Why? Because it was based on the myth of facial fingerprints. In medicine, women who are having a heart attack are far more likely than men to be misdiagnosed with anxiety and sent home, sometimes with fatal results. It's partly because of outdated stereotypes about who is emotional. So this new science, it's not just some academic debate. It has real life or death implications.
And so all of this leaves us with a really powerful and kind of provocative final thought. The old classical view makes you a passenger in your own life, totally at the mercy of these ancient emotion circuits you can't control. But this new science, it suggests something radically different. If your brain is actively constructing your emotions every moment of your life, that means you might have more of a say in them than you ever thought possible. So it makes you wonder, are you the architect of your own emotional experience?